Welcome to Life, Biz and All That Jazz, the podcast where real talk meets transformation. If you're navigating mental health, healing from trauma, or wanting to live a life that truly feels like yours, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jasmine Lashotto, and every week we talk about the raw, the unfiltered, the unmasked conversations that are going to support you in your growth, but also understand that you are never alone. So if you're new here, welcome to the family. And if you've come back for more, thank you for trusting in my vision. I really appreciate your support. So today's episode is a fun one. I really resonate with our guest today because not only is she in a very similar position with her life where she is in similar journey, it's something that is really exciting. And today's episode is for anyone that's felt like they are the black sheep, the ones who feel a lot and the ones that also seek freedom. If you understand what I'm talking about with the resonating, I'm sure you already do if you've listened to previous episodes. So today I'm joined with Dalia Kemble, a digital nomad coach and someone who shares her transformational journey that really started from heartbreak and then turned into a lifestyle that she's built with healing, alignment, and bold self-discovery. We talk about the realities behind the digital nomad life and the loneliness, the logic, and also the chaos. There's also a lot of sacrifices that come with this. So we're going to go deep into uncovering what our comfort zone is and why we need to step out of it if we do want to have that growth and that real transformation to separate us from the life we had to the life we want. So that's enough from me. Let's bring in Dalia. Dalia Kemble, welcome to Life, Biz and All That Jazz.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited for our chat today and thank you for your time. One thing I want to start with is when we had a conversation previously, before today, I just felt like I was reading some information about you. And as I said before, we jumped on press record. I feel like you're my spirit animal as a human, and we're in very similar situations. So I'm really excited to kind of unpack that. But what I'd like to start with is the beginning. I always love to go back to the beginning for you, kind of like before you had that shift that something needed to change, and go as deep as you want to go, talk about as much as you want to talk about, the messy middle, whatever you want to go. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Wow, I'm thinking back, and as I'm reflecting, it's crazy because I currently am based in Thailand, and I'm living on an island where I caught the travel bug 10 years ago. And when I'm going back, that trip started after a breakup from a very toxic relationship. And it's just crazy to think how in the moment when you're at rock bottom, you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to get up and how life is going to flow from there. But then when you look back and how all the pieces of the puzzle kind of click together. So I knew at the time that I just needed to get away. I wanted to travel and I didn't have anyone to travel with. And I remember going through my mind and thinking, am I just going to not travel and do what I want to do and wait for someone to join me? Or am I just going to go solo? And I ended up going solo. And during that trip, I caught the travel bug. And I'm currently living on that island today where I caught the travel bug, which is crazy. And that trip in itself opened up so much for me. I think solo traveling opened up a whole other world for me. It opened my mind to different cultures, to different conversations with people, to different ways of living. And from there was really no going back. And for a long time, the truth was for a long time, I was doing all the traditional things. I was studying, I was at university and getting my degrees and all of those things. And every chance, every opportunity I had to go and travel, I did. So in between semester breaks and things like that, I'd go and travel. I'd work throughout the year, save up, go traveling and come back and kind of start that loop again. And it got to the point in COVID where I was actually in India and I flew back from India on literally one of the last flights before all the skies closed and the world completely shifted. And I remember after that trip, I was like, I need to find a way to make this work where I can travel and have that freedom and still and not be in that loop of doing something that I thought I wanted to do and then, wait for the travel time and all of those things. And that's how I kind of went into the whole digital nomad lifestyle side of things, and things evolved from that place. And it's crazy because now I like for so long it was my dream to travel, and just like I was the kind of person that I can wait in airports for like the crazy longest layovers, like 20-hour layovers. I didn't care, just to be on an airport, just to be on a plane. And I would
this is what I would do.
I would enjoy that so much. And now, honestly, I'm like, just get me from A to B as quick as I can.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the whole journey thing anymore as much as I did. But also the truth is, like, after a long time of traveling and living out of a backpack, I started to crave roots and being in one place and having a place where I had a kitchen to literally cook an omelette for breakfast in the morning. And I was like, what has happened to me? Like, I was thriving from living out of a backpack and not knowing where I'm going the next day to then like having this craving for some stability and for some roots. And then I ended up staying in Thailand, and I was been in Thailand until now for the last year and a half. But that in itself was like a whole new journey for me as well. Like that desire to stay put in one place. And I think suddenly sometimes we wake up and we want something so much, and then we get to the point of asking ourselves like, wait, we've worked so hard for this and we've got to this place, and now it's like we want something different. Like, what is even happening here? So yeah, there's a lot around that as well.
I feel all of that, and I resonate with all of that because my story is similar. My 20s, went to uni, got the job, made my way up in the job, and was the same. Would just wait for holidays. And I went on my first holiday alone. I went to Europe. I did Greece and Croatia with a backpack. And I was probably alone for about 20 days, but that's the longest I'd ever been alone without being with family, with friends, or, just a partner. And it was very different. And I stayed in a lot of different places and I met so much people, and I was like, there's just so much world out there. So I went back, continued to work some more, saved up again, and then went on another holiday. COVID was a little bit different for me. I was planning to move within the company I was with for marketing, and then COVID hit, and I was lucky to have a job the whole time. So I've always been in Australia. But what that showed me was that, things were changing. And even though I couldn't move up in the marketing department, I started some stuff on the side. So I started to help some businesses get online, and then that kind of all unfolded. And then here I am now, 5 years later, and I've just officially started to call myself a digital nomad because I'm in the process of buying a van and I'm going to do Australia. But while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to go to Bali for a month so I can just kind of like plan a bit more. And yeah, eventually I'd love to just move to Italy and just to travel. And I don't know, there's just so much life out there. And I've really accepted the norm that I don't need to follow society's path. Like everything that I thought I was meant to have, it doesn't need to be what I have. And it took me a while, and it took me also to remove my ego and to be able to accept that just because someone else has done it before me or people expect it from me doesn't mean I need to do it if it doesn't feel right. So I know that you're probably feeling similar on that. What was the big shift for you? I know you said you went on holidays, but was there kind of a moment, a triggering moment that you thought to yourself, like, I can't do this for the rest of my life? Like, what's my life going to look like?
There was a few things. I think the big time where it shifted for me was actually in India, and I just had this spiritual awakening there. And I just like this. I think when your eyes open to a different way of life and you see things differently, there's really no going back from that place. And then it's like you see a whole new world. And for a long time, I was like, I was studying my degrees. I was in the corporate world. I thought I wanted to climb the ladder, and I was like, I'm here. I'm in it now. And it just made me question, like, what do I really want from life? And I think for so long, I just followed what I thought I was supposed to and followed the traditional path because I didn't know there was any different. And I think when I started traveling and seeing a completely different culture, a completely different way of life, meeting people doing different things, I was like, wow, like there's a different way to live. Like it doesn't have to be that way. And it just felt so much more aligned. So I was just kind of pulled more in that direction. And then there really was no going back. And then from there, I started to even meet digital nomads. And I remember the first time meeting a digital nomad, and I was on a bus actually in New Zealand, traveling there. And I just met some people randomly on the bus. And I was like, how long have you guys been traveling for? And they're like, we've been on the road for the last 4 years.
Wow.
And I was just tell me more. And then from there, I started meeting more digital nomads and seeing people doing like crazy things and like making it work. And I was like, wow, like there's another way of life. And I was called so much in that direction. And honestly, now I'm just so open about sharing some of the challenges with that, because I definitely went into that lifestyle with the rose tinted glasses on of this is amazing. That doesn't get better than working from your laptop on the beach and all of these things. And I honestly just see being a digital nomad as a different way of life, but it's still life and there's still challenges that come up with that. And I think a lot of people don't always share that because there's sometimes shame around that and like fear of like, bursting the bubble and ruining that image that life is as great as it looks on Instagram sort of thing.
That's so true. And especially having your own business. So for my example, it's taken me 5 years to get to a position now where I can solely just rely on the business. And I've moved back with my mum now while I can save a bit more and kind of do this next plan. And you have to make sacrifices. There's obviously a lot of things. So I'd love for you to unpack some of the challenges because, as you said, I think it's really good to be open and, to show people that it's not just going to be what everyone's posting on Instagram. There is the hard work behind it and the challenges, and also like you're constantly going to be learning more about yourself, and it could get a little bit lonely. So I'd love for you to unpack.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, I think loneliness is like the first thing that really came up because it's different when you're traveling somewhere. You're really going in and out somewhere and exploring places and moving around and meeting people. And when you're moving countries and staying put in one place or deciding to stay put in one place, it's like sometimes you just find yourself like, oh my God, like I'm in a beautiful place, but what about the people that I love the most? And what about family? And what about friends and all of these things? And I think it takes time to meet people and to meet community. And now I'm at the place where I have fortunately met some really good people, but it definitely took a long time to get there. And there's a lot of feelings that come up with you're in a beautiful island or you're traveling somewhere and everything is great, but then you're feeling lonely or you're feeling like disconnected to some extent. There's a lot of things that come up around that as well. And I think there's also challenges day to day, like even on the logistical side of things of what, like it sounds silly, but like there are things around where am I going to work and Wi-Fi and all of these things and time zone challenges like that for me has been a big thing because I work a lot with the US and in Thailand it's like opposite hours. So I make it work, but there's definitely it's not always. I think a lot of people, and I know I used to think this when I used to look at pictures like, oh, they're so lucky they're on the beach all day. They're just traveling. And I'm like, yes, it's part of it, but it's definitely not all of it. I don't sit all day on the beach and just sunbathing and, everything's working and you don't need to put the work. I think you need to put the work in. And I think oftentimes we don't see the work that needs to go in and the sacrifices that are made. Like a lot of the time, even if there's things that I want to do and I want to socialize and go out with people, there's also work commitments and other things. And sometimes it's a lot about, yes, there's so much enjoyment to this lifestyle. There's so many benefits. I don't need to go into that because it's kind of obvious and you can see that. But there's also a lot of sacrifices and a lot of times where you've got to say no in order to say yes to your future vision and what you're working on. Because if you're just, going out all the time and just having fun and just enjoying without actually putting in the work, it's not going to last or be sustainable as well.
I think it's important what you said about like the sacrifices because you will miss out. It's not easy. You will miss out on time with family, and where are you going to sacrifice for your future? So I think that's really important. One thing as well that you mentioned is like building up to it. So do you feel like it's not for everyone as well in a way? Like how did you have to really build up that strength to be able to do that regarding your like healing journey and coming through to where you are now?
Yeah, honestly, so much resilience. And I don't think it's for everyone. I think it's for people who I think honestly, you've got to be okay with living in uncertainty to a lot of extent. And I think as well, there's so many ways to specifically like digital nomad. There's so many ways to do that. But I think a lot of people get stuck at the beginning. And I know I definitely did of if you're going to be a digital nomad, you need to move around like all the time and tick off as many countries as possible and move around. Otherwise it's like, it's defeats the whole point of being a digital nomad. And that in itself gets really tiring and exhausting. And it's really hard to meet people that way as well. So I think definitely staying put for longer in one place was something that came along the way. But yeah, there's a lot that I think isn't necessarily taught or seen and you kind of learn as you go along. But I definitely think that you learn, I think that on the on the benefits, on the plus side of things, you really learn to get to know yourself better and to connect to yourself as well. And I don't think everyone is open to that to some extent. Like a lot of people, just even the thought of spending time alone, like that freaks them out. They're like, I know a lot of people and they're like, they need to be around people all the time. And I'm interestingly evaluating myself and seeing I'm very a mix of both. Like I'm definitely an introvert. I definitely thrive off alone time. Like I cannot, if I'm around people all the time, I'm like, I need some alone time. And I thrive off other people and their energy. So like I am a people's person, but I also need alone time. And I think having that lifestyle and being away and experiencing different things and experiencing different cultures definitely allows you to connect on a much deeper level to yourself. And also the conversations you're having with other people are a different level. Like I've experienced this, like just sometimes I'm sitting in a cafe with people on a Monday morning and I'm like, it's crazy the things we're speaking about now. And it's just like not surface typical level conversations. So I think that helps to question. Like I'm at the point now in life where I question everything and I enjoy that. Like I think curiosity is a big thing that has allowed me to get to where I want to get to and continues, because I question all the time, like, is this mine? Is this like really what I believe? Is there a different way? And I think when you start having conversations with people and people in all different realms of life and different cultures and that have been through different things, it really does get you to open your mind to, wow, like maybe this isn't always what I thought it was.
That's right. I think we grow up as well. We're often thinking that we need to stick with the beliefs that we've had from childhood. And that's what can be the hardest thing, and why we get so stuck is we're sold this path or this dream that we got to decide what we want to do when we leave school, when most of us aren't even at the, like in Australia, the legal age is 18. So most of us finish school here when we're 17, and then we've got to lock in, spend all this money and go to university, get the job, buy a house that now most people can't even afford, and just keep doing that and then work till you're 60. Like, I just think that's the biggest lie that they could have told us. And I know that that's fine for some people, but the people that understand that they want something more to that, which is myself and obviously yourself as well. And, you know, it's about ticking all the boxes off and then getting to a point. And like you mentioned as well with the conversations, the first time I went overseas on my own, I just couldn't understand like how many other people were doing it as well. And then that's what made me more inspired. And then I went back again in 2022. I did a lot of Greece in Crete on my own. And it's small gaps as well. So I can't wait to really get out there more. But it's just, you literally, like, you're talking to people, and I ended up meeting like 4 other single people as well that were there in Crete, and we went on hikes every day, and like we still connected online, and just we just had deeper conversations, and the level of awareness as well. And another thing I thought was really cool that you mentioned is questioning everything. And if we're told a certain way to do something, or even when it comes to food and diet, we're told this certain stuff, we don't have to believe that. Like, we can do our own research. And I'm such a researcher. I don't know if you're a researcher. I feel like I'm going on a few different topics here, but that's kind of what I do. But yeah, what I'm kind of getting at is, I think we just have the power to choose our own life, to choose our own path. And it's really getting that confidence and able to, you know, make that decision and build up that self-belief. So do you feel like it took you some time to be able to, like with your like healing journey and until you got to where you are today, did you have to do a lot of inner work? I know you mentioned something about a spiritual awakening in India. So I'd love to hear more about that side of your journey.
Yeah. I honestly do the inner work all the time. Like I think it's a daily thing, and I think it's a never ending journey. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's not like, I know, trying to think of a good example. It's not like going after something in life and you've done it, you've done it once and then it's done and you're good to go. It's like, I see it as almost like kind of like an onion and peeling off a layer, and there's another layer and another layer and another layer. So I've got to the place now where, like, yes, there's so many sometimes intense emotions that come up with that, but I also find joy in the journey of being on this journey, if that makes sense, of being on this inner journey. So India for me was like where it was like, whoa, like everything kind of opened up and I saw a different way, and there was kind of no going back from that place. But since then, I think I've always been connected to personal development. I think one of the values that I like, that I thrive off most is growth, like whether it's personal growth, professional growth, just moving forward. Like it's crazy because one of the things I wish myself like every year is to be able to look back and see like, I think growth as well. I just want to define that for a second, how I see it, because I think a lot of people for growth, it's like when their whole outside world changes. And for me personally, I often see growth, at least in my life, as putting myself back in the same situation I was once in and seeing that I'm a completely different version of myself, how I react, how I act in that situation. And I think
Yeah.
even now, like being back here, like being every time I come back to visit family, I see how things have evolved and how things are different. And I'm essentially back in the same situation, but our relationship is just better and better and more thriving each time. And it wasn't always that way. So I think sometimes when you're able to look back and see, wow, like I'm in the same situation, but I'm reacting differently, I'm thinking differently, I'm being a different person, that is growth. Like that's the inner work. There's so much healing in that. And to be able to put yourself in situations that weren't always that way, and then to see just how much you've evolved from that place.
Wow, I literally feel like I'm talking to myself right now. Everything you just said then about growth, lifelong journey, and looking back, I think it's so powerful to be able to look back and to not only see like kind of how far you've come. And that's where I do similar things, and I've got some older journals, and sometimes I'll read them and I'll read what I've written and I'll think, I don't even know who that person is, but like I remember it. But then I'll look at the situation totally different, and you just kind of get that. Sometimes it can be like a little bit like emotional for me, because I think, oh, if only you knew what you know now. It's kind of like going back, but you never can go back. And another thing I love that you said was lifelong. So I've always been, put my hand up, I'm a lifelong learner. Like this journey, like self-development, growth, healing, I think once you know that it's lifelong, that it's just every time you do it, like it's not like you're doing a certain task. There's multiple tasks. We do things every day, but as you're progressing, it's the compound of it all. And then it continues to go on, and then you're starting to learn new ways. I think it's really cool, and it's kind of addictive. It's addictive once you have a level of awareness. I want to know more. I've spoke on a podcast recently about like triggers. And now when I get triggered, I'm like, yes, I've got something else I need to learn. Like in a good way. It's like enjoying that trigger.
Someone said to me recently, like the triggers are the place where you're not free, and you can choose to do that work and to see that and to kind of heal around that and to let that go, or you can choose to be triggered by it and not do anything about it. So it's very, very true, and I definitely relate to everything you just said before that as well. Like, wow.
That's why I said earlier, like it's so inspiring and like motivating to talk to other women like yourself, because I don't really have anyone like my friends or my best friends have kids, and like my family, like I've got a lot of support around me, but no one's doing what I'm doing, and that's fine. They support that, but it's hard to relate. Like I have more people online than I can talk to, because I've met them through different spaces and different stuff and the podcasts, and it's nice to be able to connect with people and share this together to go on and inspire other people to be able to have their life and choose their life.
I think it's so powerful as well, like who you're surrounding yourself with. And I can totally relate to what you just said, because when I first started this journey, there was definitely a lot of loneliness that even came up with that, of like feeling like the odd one out, and you can't have these conversations, and there's a level of depth you want to get to, but like people around you just aren't getting it. You're just not in the same place. And not from, I think a lot of people, when they do start on their spiritual journey, sometimes you end up getting to a place of like that there's a gap, but it's never from a place of like you're better than anyone else or they're better than you, or from like a levels place. It's more from a place of you just craving a different level of conversation. But I think that naturally, interestingly, balances out at least in my experience, it also balances out over the years, because I definitely now, like, I crave those conversations. I love the in-depth conversations, and I've also found a way to connect on a deeper level with people who aren't necessarily in that place, but on a different level, sort of thing. So I think it's interesting just there. And even what you were saying before, like I think really a big part of this journey is being a lifelong learner, but also being a lifelong teacher, because something that I just feel so inspired and cool by. And one of the reasons I do what I do and I work with the women I do is because I'm like, if I've been through something and I get it, and I believe there's a reason we go through things in life. And I also think that part of it is to help other people to get through it and to get to
Yes.
the other side of that and to choose that courage and to get stronger. So I'm like, I believe I'm a lifelong learner, and there's always what to learn from every single person in life. But I think it's also our responsibility to some extent to teach that and to put that forward and to bring these conversations out and to help other people to do the same as well.
No, that's perfect. And especially when you go from one situation and create the life that you have to, that whole journey, and it's continuous, but the growth through that journey, and when you can see the possibility, you just have this calling. I'm similar. Like, I want to talk about mental health. I want to talk about living your life, aligned life, that you need to create a life for yourself that is for you and it's purely for you. I want to come back to talking about city to hippie, but one question I wanted to say first was, do you feel like since you've done more awareness and, you have those deeper conversations with people you don't necessarily know, when you are coming back and having conversations with, say, family and friends, do you feel like you're able to create deeper conversations because you're confident to kind of spark things, or talk to them in a different level? Because I've found that I feel like I've set boundaries. I'm not afraid now to say things that before maybe I would want to sugarcoat. It's never to come across mean or anything like that, but I think we should be able to talk more openly and freely, and that's something that my own journey has enabled me to do.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And I also think that when you're more connected to yourself and you're more in alignment with yourself, it's easier to the more in alignment you are, the more confident you are in your truth as well, and the easier it is to be in that place. But I also think the more you do go through this journey, the more compassion you have for everyone around you. Usually that's what I found as well. And the easier it is to actually meet people where they're at, and to remember that everyone is at different phases of their journey as well. And like, I just find it easier to meet people where they're at and to honor that and to respect that in the process as well.
Knowing that just because the way that we have a perception isn't necessarily going to be the way they have a perception. Everyone's got their own view and they're going to see it differently. So it's having that level of understanding. So let's have a chat about City to Hippie. I would love to talk about that. So that's your coaching program. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh my God. That was like, it's not my current coaching program now, but
Oh,
I can totally go into that because that's where everything really started and evolved. Like a lot evolved from that place. City to Hippie was City to Hippie was actually supposed to be the name of a travel blog. Like when I
yeah.
first started traveling a while back, that was like, I was like, I want to do a blog and write, and I wanted something catchy. And I was traveling with a friend at the time, and we were like trying to brainstorm together names. This was way before ChatGPT was even a thing. Like we actually had to use our brain and think of names. And then suddenly, when sometimes in the moment something comes to you and it's like, oh, that's it. So like that was like kind of how the name came. But for me at the time, it was a reflection of who I was becoming and just my spiritual awakening. And it was a physical representation of that, because I used to be like classic city girl, going out like parties, dressing up, taking 2 hours to get ready, only go out if my hair was straightened, face full of makeup, high heels, that kind of vibe. And then I went to India, and I ended up in the same weekend getting a full head of multicolored dreadlocks, a tattoo, a nose piercing, and the whole lot. And that one for me, like, was a physical representation of me just going out there and being wild and just like connecting to, I guess, the spiritual hippie side of me as well. So I just felt like, for me, the name City to Hippie reflected my transformation, but it also reflected the transformation that I wanted to help other people with, which didn't necessarily mean they had to go from like, the same transformation, but it's like in itself, like the essence of transformation. That's what the whole name was about. And then it was probably after, I can't remember exactly how long now. So it was after a long time, I just realized that I didn't relate as much to the name anymore. It didn't feel aligned. And it was a hard decision to take because it became like part of my identity and part of who I was. And it was my Instagram handle and all of these things. But I just felt that part of my journey at that time, it served me so much, but I wasn't as out there in the sense of like, I felt like when the name stopped feeling aligned, I felt the more I was getting grounded in who I was and in my journey, the less the name felt aligned, because it kind of felt a little bit like spiritual and woo-woo and out there, but less grounded. And I think the more I realized that this whole journey wasn't even about growth and moving forward, it was actually about coming back to who I was becoming and to the essence and to the core. That's when I literally just shifted and like my handle on Instagram to my name, because I'm like, my name is so much. It's a reflection of that. It's a reflection of who I am, who I've been, and who I'm becoming. But that kind of encompasses all of the things, whether it's the journey, the past, the future, the present, and everything. So I just put it back to like, this is simply me. And there's so many different parts of that. But I just felt more called to own like who I'm being and who I am. And less like the name and something outside that was like reflecting that, if that makes sense.
That does. So really, because you are your brand, like it's your personal brand, and so that's like your real umbrella. Because I'm similar as well. I recently changed. I was more having a lot of stuff with just promoting on the podcast, and I kind of felt like, well, the podcast is one thing that I do. Then I have a business account which is separate again, but that's a marketing business, and then I have me now doing this, like kind of just sharing my journey as well, which the podcast is kind of like an umbrella. So we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to kind of have different changes and stuff like that. And that's I think the beauty of self-development and growing, is that we can choose to change something, like it's still a part of us. So what sort of coaching do you do now? Do you want to touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. And I actually want to touch on first on what you just shared now, and then I'll touch on the coaching side of
Yes.
things. I think something that a big lesson that I've learned on my journey is the importance of giving yourself permission to stay in alignment and to move around if things don't feel right anymore. And for a long time, I used to kind of stay in the place of putting pressure on myself and force in. And if I said I'm going to do something, I have to do it. And even if it didn't feel right anymore, I never gave permission to question that. And even now, there's like, I think as entrepreneurs as well, there's things that are shifting. And as we're growing, things are sometimes out of alignment and we're evolving all the time. And I think when you learn to give yourself permission that it's okay to change things, it's okay if it doesn't feel in alignment anymore. I used to think to myself, like, it's not okay, because I'm just like, why is everyone, I always used to think like everyone's so consistent with everything they're doing. And I just can't be consistent because I'm always changing what I'm doing. I'm always changing something. I'm getting excited and it doesn't feel right. And I realized that part of like my human design, part of who I am, is that I thrive. I thrive off that energy of being in alignment. And when I'm out of alignment and it doesn't feel forced, like that creativity is never going to come. Nothing's going to feel like it's moving in the right direction. So I think being okay and learning to give myself permission to shift things and to evolve and move things around has been huge. And it's still like very relevant even to today. Like as I'm building things and doing things in my business as well, like things are changing all the time. And even sometimes it feels right in the moment. And it's not about not testing it and not trying, but sometimes when you have that knowing inside that something just isn't right anymore, I think sometimes just giving yourself permission to listen to that is really, really huge as well.
That's great. Yeah, I resonate with all of that. Is just accepting that, yeah, things don't have to go always as planned. Love for you to touch on your current coaching and chat to the audience about what you do now and your vision for what you're doing.
Yeah. So I essentially help the black sheep to have the courage to live a life without regrets. Because number one, I know firsthand what it's like to tick off all the boxes, and life looks great on the outside, but it just doesn't feel good inside. And not that it doesn't feel good, but I know what it's like when you're ticking off the boxes and doing all the things that you're meant to be doing, and you're just still like overwhelmed or burnt out or resentful, or there's things coming up. And I'm really just all about helping people to shift that so that life looks great on the outside, but it feels just as good, if not better, on it from the inside as well, like really from the inside out and embodying that joy. And I think a lot of it comes down to what we spoke about at the beginning around the confidence and the courage to go after what it is that truly lights you up. And when you are doing things differently, what I have found with myself and also with clients I work with is that when you're doing things differently and walking a different path than most people are doing, there's a lot of challenges that come up with that, but there's also a lot of courage it takes to actually continue walking on that path, especially when you feel like you're one of the only ones doing it. So I essentially help people to, number one, get clear on what it is they want, because I think sometimes I say, like, I ask people like, what do you want? And they haven't even asked themselves that question for so long because they're so used to following what they think they should be doing. So first of all, it's getting clear on that. But second of all, what I found with most people is that even when you're clear on that, that excitement, that connection to the vision comes, and then you start taking steps, and then either someone else's opinion will throw you off or your own self-doubt will kick in. And then it's about really building that inner confidence and the courage to go after that, which comes with a lot of mindset work, a lot of energy work, a lot of healing work, a lot of like the similar things that we spoke about as well. So I essentially help people to go after what really lights them up, to get clear on that and to go after that, to have the courage to go after that. Because I think that when we are living our best lives, you get to win because you're, literally living in alignment, but everyone around you gets to win as well, because you get to, like we said before, you get to learn and to become that version of yourself, but you also get to inspire other people what's possible. And I know for me on my journey, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this and just giving back in that realm is because I honestly say all the time, like, I'm so grateful for the people who had the courage to do things differently and show me what's possible, because I would not be here today if it wasn't for those people. Like I wouldn't have even started my whole digital nomad journey or anything like that if I didn't speak to people and see what's possible. But I know how much courage it took them to do it. And I'm like, wow, like I'm so grateful for that today. Like I feel that desire to just give back and to help one person at a time or to change their life. And sometimes it doesn't have to be ridiculous big change on the outside. Like with a lot of people I work with, sometimes they're happy in their job, they're happy in what they're doing, they don't need to transform and everything. Sometimes it's about being more connected to yourself and having the courage to express yourself more and to say what you want and to set those boundaries and to stop people pleasing and to work on perfectionism. And I don't know about you, but I'm a complete recovering perfectionist, and it's still things that come up. So sometimes it's not always about the big shifts. For some people it is, and that's okay. Like sometimes for some people it's like literally moving countries or shifting jobs or leaving toxic relationships and things like that. But for other people it is just learning to connect on a deeper level, to create deeper connections, to express themselves more, to be more authentic and that side of things. So that's in a nutshell what I do. And currently it's one-on-one coaching, but honestly, the vision is to create a community, which I've already coined the Pink Sheep Society, because I think the black sheep has a negative connotation and a lot of kind of like energy of rebel and outsider and selfish and all of these things. And I think that I think the way I see black sheep is that you just have the courage to go after what truly lights you up and to live differently and to live in alignment and to live authentically. And I think when you do that, you have your unique gifts to share with the world, and the world needs more of that. So I coined the community that I'm building, the Pink Sheep Society, because I want to bring more light and color and joy into it as well. And I think when people do share that, tap into that and share as a result of that their gifts with the world just gets to be a better and more brighter place. So yeah, and I believe so much in the power of community, because as much as I value in my life as well one-on-one coaching, and as much I know it helps so many people to transform their lives, because I've experienced this firsthand and with clients I work with, I think there's also so much power in being surrounded by like-minded people. And it's something I wish I had on my journey, because I know how challenging it is as well to sometimes go through a spiritual awakening or to do things differently and to not have those people around and to feel, like you're the odd one out and what is wrong with me and why can't I be more normal and all of these things. So I really want to just create a space where people normalize their crazy dreams and go after that, because I think when it is normalized, it's so much easier to really go after what you truly want in life.
Wow, that was so powerful. I just got
Same.
all of that. I could just feel like the passion through the screen. Everything that you're explaining then, and the world needs more people like you, and I guess you're creating them. You're creating the next people like you now. You're able to get out there and, share what you've done and give them more or less a step forward, because they're not starting from step one. It might be their step one, but they've got that guidance. And I think what was really important that you mentioned is it doesn't have to be a drastic change. It could be something small. Like everyone's journey to get into this aligned life, or to get into a life that really truly feels like theirs, and they go to sleep every night and wake up every day like excited for the next day and not dread for the weekend, or not want Monday to come. It's just, it could be, yeah, like small shifts in certain areas, or like you said, some people it's larger. So it can often be scary to think that stepping into some type of change or making that step that someone needs to be a drastic change, but it might not look like that. It could just be kind of small parts that need shifting, so everything else aligns together.
I was gonna say, just definitely. I think a lot of people, like I know I've been caught up before, and I've often felt stuck of not knowing the whole journey and what the next 5 years are gonna look like, and everyone's telling you create these 5 year plans and all of these things. And I think sometimes it holds certain people back, and it's also okay to start with like change is scary in itself. So it's also okay if you have the big vision and it feels like oftentimes if something's really big and it's far away, there's like, I'm over here and that feels over there. And it just feels like, how the hell am I going to get there? And I think sometimes just, again, giving yourself permission to take that first step, even if you don't know what's going to happen after that, like that's going to open up more doors. That's going to open
Yeah.
up more opportunities and it's going to keep you moving and evolving in the right direction. Like it's okay to not always know the whole path because I think sometimes that really holds people back from even taking that first step because they're like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And sometimes it's also okay to just take that first step and not to know what's going to happen next and to give yourself permission to be in that place as well.
And I think we always also a lot of people, and I've been similar as in the past, is not having like you don't have to have it all figured out. Like similar to what you said, like it's just taking the step. The plan can unfold once you're in there, once you're in the thick of it. Like things can change, and also if you do have a bit of a goal or a plan, when you start it, you might start this journey, and then you might not want to be on the journey or like that journey altogether and you might want to start again. So I think that's really important. Something that just come to mind again that you mentioned was the perfectionist. So I'm really similar in that way too. And the people pleasing and for years, being someone to fit in somewhere and then not feeling like myself and then having to be say at work I had to be one person friendship you really it does get very draining having to like put a mask on in such way just to kind of feel like you fit in. But then when you do start to like do that work, and I had to step back, like the last 2 years has been a very big breakthrough for me. And that was for me was I removed alcohol. I focused on my goals, my business. I really done a lot of inner work, and I did spend most of it alone. Most of it I needed to because I really just was focusing on my environment and relearning a lot of things. And I saw my family and my friends every now and then, but it wasn't just going out on weekends like doing catch ups just for the sake of it. It was really like stepping back into me and relearning who I wanted to be and who I wanted to become again. So there's so much we could talk about with journey and this. Like it's just been this is a great conversation. I'm really excited to pick your brain a little bit more. One thing I wanted to talk about was the word resilience. So I'd love to know, and that's something I bring up a lot, like resilience is very underrated and most of us don't realize that we do have that. If you've been through difficult times or even if you haven't, you've seen people go through difficult times, we're always building resilience. So what does resilience mean to you? What is it like this journey kind of taught you when it comes to resilience?
So resilience for me, it's a great question. I haven't necessarily thought about it like until you're bringing it up now, but I really do think that it's about proving to yourself like what you're truly capable of. And I think a lot of the time we don't realize until we're in certain situations. And there's obviously so many different challenges that all of us go through. But for me, one of the first things that even came up was just going back to the whole solo traveling and realizing what's possible and putting yourself in situations that you're like, well, I don't even know like how things are going to work out. And they do. And then you just prove to yourself like what you're truly capable of. And I think each and every one of us have so much power to us. And I think one of the things that I really try to experience now when I do go through challenges is asking the question, like, and sometimes it's really hard, obviously, to see it in the moment, but afterwards to really take that time to reflect back on what did that teach me? Like, what did I learn from this? Like, what did this come into my life to show me? And sometimes it's not always simple to even see that or to be in that place in the moment, especially when you're going through something really challenging. But I think when you're able to look back and see that this challenge came into my life to teach me something, to show me something, to make me stronger, that is what builds resilience. Like things can be great and when life is going smooth and everything's smooth sailing, great. But you're going to really be tested and you're going to grow through the challenges and through the harder times, not when things are going smooth sailing and great. And I think there's always opportunity to learn there, even if it's challenging and it's not always easy in the moment. I think whenever we're going through a hard time, whenever we're going through a struggle, through a challenge, there's always opportunity there to learn and to grow from that. And I think that in itself is what builds inner strength, which is very much connected to resilience.
That's such a great way to put it, because it's always so different from everyone. And every time I ask that question, it really sparks a lot of different ideas, but always comes back to the main idea. And I really, really love that. So did you have anything else you wanted to share today before we wrap up our episode?
I'm trying to think if something's coming to mind. There's obviously a lot of directions we could take this in, but I think for now, no, not like you know what? I will just end on one thing. I used to be the kind of person who, like, if I have anything else to add, like sometimes I felt the need to, and I'm sharing this because it could be that someone's out there like feeling the same way in their life as well. And sometimes if you don't have if you have what to share, I think having the courage to say it, someone needs to hear it. And if you don't, it's also okay to give yourself permission, like the power of silence. Like I've done a lot of silent meditations and things like that. So sometimes just not saying for the sake of it, but just giving that space of it's okay.
I love that. I love the way that you just worded that.
But thank you. I just want to say thank you for everything.
That's okay. It's been such a great chat. So usually I just finish off with one question at the end of my episode. So I'd love for us to just go back. If you could tell your younger self something or teach your younger self something, what would you say to her before embarking on the journey to where you are today?
Okay. If I could say something to my younger self, this is such a great question. I'm like, wow, what would I say to her? I think one of the biggest things that's coming through is to speak and to share her voice, and to let her know that if she has something to share, someone needs to hear that right now. Well, I'm going to get emotional saying this, but I think for a long time I used to hold back in sharing things, and I still do to some extent. But I think I used to hold back a lot of the fear of what people are going to say and what people are going to judge and all of these things. And I think it's really easy as humans to have that spotlight on us, that everyone's watching us and everyone's looking at us and it has to be perfect and all of these things. So I think what I would probably say to her is, if you have something to share, someone needs to hear it. And if they don't like it, it's not your problem. It's their problem. Let it go. And I never knew how to do that. So I think that is, yeah. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to reflect on that. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I thank you so much for your time today. It's been such an inspiring, motivating, and empowering episode. Everyone's going to love this. I'm so excited for this to get out and to meet someone like yourself that, shares a very similar vision. So it's been such a great time. Thanks so much for your time today, Dalia.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate this opportunity.
All right.
And it was so great to connect.
Thanks again. And to everybody else listening, we will see you next week.